this point, when most people think of the NFL's Colts franchise, they think of Indianapolis, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, or Tony Dungy. Unless you were born before 1979 or live in the cities of Indianapolis or Baltimore, you don't remember an NFL franchise before the Indianapolis Colts. Today we're going to look at the Baltimore Colts and their controversial move to Indianapolis. Let's flash back to the early 1980s. The Baltimore Colts were under the ownership of Robert Bob Irsay, as seen on the left. Irsay was a giant in the heating and air conditioning business. He actually purchased the Los Angeles Rams in 1972 and traded franchises with then Colts owner Carroll Rosenbloom. The Colts played at aging Memorial Stadium and shared the venue with the Baltimore Orioles. In the 1980s, the Orioles were a very strong franchise and won a World Series in 1983 featuring Hall of Fame pitcher Jim Palmer at the end of his career, first baseman Eddie Murray, and some kid shortstop named Cal Ripken Jr. who went on to play a few games in the major leagues. On the other hand, the Colts were really bad. The facility was really bad and old. On top of that, the cities of Phoenix and Indianapolis offered new stadiums in exchange for moving the Colts. Even with the issues facing his club in the aging stadium situation, Irsay was determined to keep the team in Baltimore when he said, "I have not any intentions of moving the goddamn team. If I did, I will tell you about it, but I am staying here." Phoenix would temporarily host games at Arizona State University's Sun Devil Stadium while the permanent stadium deals were figured out. Spoiler alert. Okay, not really. Phoenix didn't get the Colts. They later got the St. Louis Cardinals to move to Arizona and ultimately ended up at the University of Phoenix Stadium in suburban Glendale. Phoenix ultimately pulled out of the deal because the Maryland Senate passed legislation threatening to take over ownership of the Colts by eminent domain. So let's take a step back for a second. So what is eminent domain? Well, by definition, eminent domain is the right of a government or its agent to take private property for public use with payment of compensation, aka take the team away from Bob Irsay so he can't move it. With Phoenix out of the picture, let's go back to Indianapolis in the 1970s and see how they got themselves into this unique position. Mayor Richard Lugar, and eventually Senator, and more importantly, Mayor William Hudnut, wanted to change Indianapolis' image from being a quiet town to a world-class city. So in 1979, the state of Indiana formed the Indiana Sports Corp in an attempt to bring the NFL and other sporting events, such as the NCAA Final Four, to Indianapolis. They took a huge risk and started building the Hoosier Dome without having a team in 1982. So let's go back to 1984. And you remember that Bob Irsay quote? Well, on March 2nd, 1984, the NFL owners gave Irsay permission to move the club. After the eminent domain stunt on March 28th, Irsay quickly cut a deal with the city of Indianapolis to move the club and use the brand new $77.5 million Hoosier Dome. So the deal was cut, but the club had to move quickly in order to get out of town and not risk the eminent domain threat. Remember Indianapolis Mayor Hudnut? Also on March 28th, he called his buddy John B. Smith, the CEO of Mayflower Transit. Smith sent 15 moving trucks to the Baltimore Colts headquarters by 10 p.m. the same day. The 15 trucks took different routes to Indianapolis in order to prevent the Maryland State Police from blocking them until the eminent domain law was signed. The law was signed by this man, Maryland Governor Harry Hughes, but it was too late and the Colts were already gone. Once they reached the Indiana state line, an Indiana State Police car gave each truck an escort to their new home. Mayor Hudnut got his team. So as expected, the city of Baltimore was absolutely crushed that they lost the Colts and the team name. But it led to accelerated discussions to replace Memorial Stadium for the Baltimore Orioles, and as a result, baseball was given Camden Yards, still one of the best ballparks in all of baseball. Oh, and after a couple attempts at a lawsuit to bring back the Colts, the city of Baltimore was given the Lombardi Trophy won by the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl V. After a failed experiment with the United States Football League franchise, and a little over a decade later in 1996, Art Modell, owner of the Cleveland Browns, announced he was moving the franchise to Baltimore with the creation of the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have since won 2 Super Bowls. Even though the city of Baltimore ended up getting another team when they stole the Cleveland Browns in the 90s, they're still pretty mad about the Colts. To be honest, I can't blame them. They lost everything about their history. Everything affiliated with the team has all been moved to Indianapolis. Then again, as a native Hoosier, I can't say I'm too upset about it. Oh, and by the way, the Cleveland Browns that are there right now, they're actually considered an expansion franchise. So just to give you an idea how upset people in Baltimore still are, I actually picked up a Baltimore native when I was still living in Indiana at the Indianapolis airport. And the first thing he said to me after I picked him up was, "Hey, can we stop and pick up some tomatoes that I can go throw at Bob Irsay's grave?" For StadiumScene.tv, I'm DJ Flo.